something that I believe that I'm good at, something that a talent that I feel that I have to use. My view of life and my lens of life was so different growing up. But Manny Pacquiao, very exciting fighter, but I read and I see the things he does for his people back at home. Crazy, bro. Hats off to him. For me, I thank God I'm able to tune in when it suits me. It's part of the game and you play the game sometimes.
Welcome to the Ring Magazine podcast. My name is Lewis Hart. Delighted today to be joined with Joshua Buatsi here. How's things? How are you, Josh? Good to see you, mate.
Yeah, man. Morning. I'm cool. Bit tired, but I'm all right, man. Yeah, not too bad.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, training in America, which we will touch on in a little bit. But obviously, here for the Ring Magazine, it's having its resurgence as of late, especially in 2025. I guess as a fight for yourself to see the Ring Magazine back up and running, obviously in print form as well. Yeah, great things for the sport, I'm sure you'll say.
No, it is. It's nice. Don't know how or when people are going to see this, but there was a massive event last night, so it was good to get a room full of champions, legends, but also it was nice to be invited to it because again, I said it yesterday, I could have easily been on social media seeing it, but to be invited to be part of it, it was a good feel. It was a good feel.
Yeah, you mentioned the Ring Awards there, and just touching on that now, you see the Oscars and you see all the actors and that. It seems like for boxing we've got our own one now, and sign of things to come. As a fighter and being there, and I spoke to Israel Madrimov earlier, and he, saying sort of you more focus on who wasn't there. So to be there and be amongst so many good fighters, how special was that experience for yourself?
Yeah, no, like I said, it was nice. I met. I'm fuming this morning actually because I saw my favorite fighter Roberto Duran. Asked my coach to take a photo of him. God knows what kind of photo he took, but it didn't come out good. And, I didn't want to ask Duran for another photo because he stopped. We took a picture, but it was an amazing scene to be in. A lot of fighters, like I said, past, present, future, and just to be. Do you know what I took from yesterday?
Yeah.
Within the elites, there's also another set of elite clubs.
Yeah.
So everyone in there was elite, 100%. But even within that room, there was another set of elites in there. So it's crazy because, like I said, I was there thinking, right, these are the best boxers in the world right now. But there were people in there where you said, okay, we're good, but they're really the real guys. Do you know what I mean? So that's something I took yesterday.
Definitely. And not just that, for example, but when you are in rooms like that, full of so much influential people and influential boxers and people that you can look up to, do you take that time to sort of pick brains of people? Like, do you find that an important thing to sort of maybe take leafs out of when you do see the elite fighters, take sort of leafs out there? But I know you spend time with Andre Ward as well, so that's something you do?
I cornered Holyfield for a hot minute,
and
I asked him some tips. He was dropping some gems to me, so that was nice. But also in that space, you gotta let people be. You can't be around people and forcing things and begging things. But it was just nice to see people, fighters that I grew up watching, fighters that I watch now, that I study. So that was nice.
Definitely. And on the Ring Magazine, when you look at the importance of an outlet and a magazine that's been going for so many years, and you look at the 100+ years it's been running for, how important do you think that is for the legacy of the sport that we keep something like that running?
That's important. I don't know when it started, but when I heard it, I was thinking, damn, this was years and years ago. And it's good to see that they've kept up with something like that till my generation, because it started years and years ago. And it's good that, Turkey's taken over it, and long may it continue.
Yeah, definitely. I guess when you touch on the history of the sport, and as you think, there's so many all-time greats that have been in the Ring Magazine and their names in the history books. Do you think it gives you inspiration that you want to join that club, as you say, let's say 10, 20 years down the line?
Honestly, yesterday when I was there, I was like, this is cool, but I'm not here for an award. So, do you know what I mean? I came to it, but I said, the aim is to be here one day collecting an award. And I think Radio Raheem asked me, who's the fighter of the year in your view? And I was like, I give it to myself. But it'll be a different vibe to be recognized by the Ring that, this is the fighter of the year guy. So and that was inspirational, man.
I was going to say that, like, the importance of putting yourself in the history books. You think when you first start, when you first lace the gloves, you think your main motivation is, as I say, creating that legacy and creating that importance to be recognised when it's all said and done. That's what you leave set in stone.
I want to agree, but I don't think that's what mine was,
Okay.
bro. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Mine was, you know, it's something that I believe that I'm good at, something that a talent that I feel that I have to use, and I've always said it's not a talent just for me to keep. Once the benefits start coming, is to make sure people around and, you know, I reach out and do things with it. I was on a flight yesterday and I was talking to this lady, and I was telling her boxing is an amazing sport, and she didn't understand what I was saying till I said, look, the best thing about my sport is it allows me to help other people. That's the best thing about boxing. Yeah, we get paid, we fight, the events and that are nice and amazing, and we create mad memories, but the most important thing for my sport is I get to help people. So that's, bro, like, I love boxing for that. So I was saying to her, and she was like, oh, I understand what you're saying. So yeah, my you know, yeah, and there's the legacy as well. Definitely, you wanna know that there was a kid that came from Ghana, came to England, wasn't meant to box, went to uni, got a degree, did things that are quite unusual for a boxer, and made the most of it and the talent, and to just let the other people know that it's so possible. I promise you, bro, none of this, all of this, bro, my life's weird because all these things that happen, that people, remember, I wasn't born in this country, so my view of life and my lens of life was so different growing up. All of this, I promise you, bro, bro, I don't even know.
Makes you appreciate it more.
I'm so grateful, man. Yeah, I'm so grateful. I appreciate a lot. And just like what's happening around the world to people and just opportunities and stuff like that. I'm so grateful for what I have and what's happening and the spaces that I've been in. Because like I said, growing up, this wasn't a dream of mine. I couldn't imagine this thing because I didn't even know it was possible. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, my life's weird, man, but I'm so grateful.
Yeah, well, I was going to touch on it later, but I think it's right. I'll bring it up now. You talked about giving back to people. One thing I did want to mention to yourself was obviously giving back to the orphanages. I know some of you said you do monthly. That idea of giving back and constantly doing that. I know you posted a video of your Instagram about October time, November time. As you said, it's something you keep on the download, but I think it's right to mention it because it is something that is important to yourself.
To me, yeah. To me, it's quite important. You know, it's something that my mum brought to my attention years and years ago. And it's something that I started doing as well years and years ago. And you probably know your mum and dad. I'd like to think we have an idea of who our parents are. And some of us have lost our parents, yes. But these orphans, like, mad stories that when I meet them, it's amazing. They've all got different stories. For example, there's a guy that I remember his story. His name is Moses. I've seen him when he's little. Now he's a bit of a big boy now, but I remember him because the story of the Bible of Moses is that, you know, he was given birth to, then you know, I think his mum and his sister put him in like a canal in the river that was flowing into like the king's palace or whatever it is, and the whole symbol of like the water and everything. So this dude called Moses in the orphanage, I asked the guy, like, why did you name him Moses? He says, Josh, the day he was brought to us, he said it was raining everywhere. There was floods everywhere. The mum literally dropped him in a little basket and just ran away, got in a taxi and just went off. So there's meaning and there's a story from, you know, behind all of this. Like I said, for me, I can point out who my mum and dad is. These guys and kids, they can't point out their parents. They probably have no contact with them, whether they're dead, whether they're around or not. So just being involved with them it's a big blessing to me, actually, more than they would think. It's a big blessing to be able to give back to them, put food in their mouth, be a parent, even if it's for 1 hour, 2 hours, however long it is. Bro, like it's them, but it's even I get a different feeling from it. And they wouldn't know. Do you know what I mean? They might think, oh, this is the dude that help us or whatever it is. But I'm thinking, nah, you guys help me more, and it's more of a blessing to be in a position to be able to help people and to help them. And like I said, we're fortunate to be able to say that's my mum, that's my dad, but they have, bro, they're little kids, they can't say that. So if I can give back to them, you know.
I was going to say that, like, aside from the orphanages, you know, the idea of giving back. I know, listen, I'll speak to a lot of people and I'll always mention yourself when they talk about advice and amount of times you just help people in a boxing career and that. Like, how much do you think, as you say, you can get from that idea of giving back to people and having that platform where they can see you, as you say, like when you were growing up, you didn't have none of this, and look at yourself now. I know there's still stuff you want to achieve. So how much is that importance, I guess, to give back to people, to show and be an inspiration as well?
To me, this is the thing. I have to make it known that this is just my way of life. So I'm not saying everyone has to do it. I'm not saying it's the only way of life. I'm not saying it's the most important thing. To me, it is. So if we're talking from my lens, it's very important, bro. Like I don't think, and I've always said this, I don't think success is if you type in my name or if I sit here and I tell you all the things I've achieved. To me, that's not success, bro. Success to me is we achieved these things, but in the midst of it, actually, this is the impact we had. This is the positive impact we had. That for me is success. When you tell me the positive impact that you had. So success isn't for me sitting here saying I've got all these belts, I've won all these things and done all these things. Nah, success is if I can talk to you off camera and you're like, Josh, or not even you, like if someone says, you know what, this is what we did, Lewis and I did this, that, he done this, that's what success is. Like, oh, we started a little project here and then, and this is what it does for the less fortunate. That for me is success. So for me personally, bro, that's what stimulates my mind. That's what I'm excited about. Of course I'm excited about boxing and stuff like that, but that for me is more important. And again, this is just from my lens, bro.
So when you mention that there and you look at great fighters that might have achieved you know, a plethora of things in their career, but one fighter that stands out to me would be someone like Muhammad Ali. He was done so much for his community and so much. So would you sort of look at it, I guess, from his lens, like look at what, not only did he obviously become heavyweight champion and this and that, but look at the career that he left on people. Would you say more an angle like that?
Ali, that's a great man. A great man. In and out of the ring. Of course, in the ring, I admire what he did outside the ring. The little that I do know that he did, inspirational. I'll tell you another fighter that I really look up to, not because of how they fight. They're a very exciting fighter, but Manny Pacquiao, very exciting fighter. But I read and I see the things he does for his people back at home. Crazy, bro. Hats off to him. Do you know what I mean? So stuff like that for me, that's success. When I look at some fighters, and I hear and read what they do, and it's all about giving back, I actually end up liking the fighter because of that, not because of how they fight or what they want. So Pacquiao, I don't try to mimic Pacquiao's style or anything. Like, he's a southpaw, he's quicker than me, tremendous fighter and everything. I don't try to mimic that, but I like Pacquiao mainly and more so because of what he does outside the ring.
Yeah, you mentioned it there and talk about boxing being beautiful sport and what you've been able to do about it. You know, it does have to be said that there are negatives to the sport, and I think, you know, there's a lot of politics that come with it. And I think it's fair to say, especially throughout your career so far, sometimes you've been caught up in that a little bit, especially with sort of the split from Matchroom and this and that. Just touching on that there, when you do get caught up in like the politics of boxing and everything like that, has it ever been frustrating for yourself when you're just someone that, you know, wants to make a positive impact?
No, bro, it's been very frustrating with the politics of the sport. But you know what? For me, it's gonna be about the end. When the end comes, I have these experiences and stories to tell. You know, and of course, when you turn pro, you think that it's just gonna be a smooth journey and you go through it. But for me, it's been a mad experience, bro. Like, so much has happened that I would read about other fighters or other athletes and think, damn, like, how'd you get in that? But then I found myself in it. You know what I mean? Legal cases, all kinds of stuff, not fighting, inactivity, to then having mad opportunities come out of nowhere. But when it's all said and done, bro, as you know, staying on top, winning, you know. But yeah, it's been a mad experience, but I wouldn't change it because you hear other people going through it, but I also wanted to experience it. Not saying I wanted to go through like the tough times or whatever it is, but it's part of the story, man. So I sit here today and I know what I've been through and how the journey's been, but you know, we still keep arching up.
Is it hard to ignore the noise sometimes, especially if you look back in like the last couple of years, especially when you did suffer with inactivity and politics and this and that?
You know what, Liz, bro? I think it depends how you are as a person. For me, I thank God I'm able to tune in when it suits me, but I can also log off instantly I'm not keeping up with all of the nonsense people are talking about. Bro, I didn't even care what's going on right now. I just know I'm fighting February 22nd. That's all that I know.
Yeah.
You know, and I say, you know what's funny, bro? I saw Yard yesterday.
Yeah. Oh, cool.
And someone wanted to interview me, and I was like, look, I'm gonna go. They're like, oh no, we'll do it on Monday. I said, cool. They said, oh, by the way, did you hear what he was saying about you? Because I had interviewed him, and I was like, that's mad. I was upstairs talking and laughing with him, so I don't even care what he said the day before or in the interview, whatever it is. I don't even care. Like, I don't keep up with some of these things. When he suits me, I will, but when it doesn't, I don't really care for it. You know, it's part of the game, and you play the game sometimes.
I know you mentioned there about giving back and, you know, what you want to leave your career as, about someone who has inspired, but that is part of what you've done. And you've been on the big stage for a long time now, as you say, like fighting Willie Hutchinson at Wembley Stadium, and that not being the only time you fought Wembley, fought many stadium fights and fought in America and this and that. There must be some time where you must look at your career and as yourself and look at what you've achieved, and being on that big stage must be a special feeling, you know. As much as you want to give back, when you look at yourself, that must be a special feeling when you look at the experience you've had in boxing.
Bro, I'll tell you one thing, it is, Lewis, in the cab here, or the whatever we got here via, I was thinking, and even yesterday on my flight, I was thinking, brother, I was in Ghana as a kid growing up, just doing whatever I was doing, and I'm so thankful for these things. Like, I'm flying around the world, I'm fighting, I'm training, I feel blessed more than I deserve, bro. More than I deserve, man. I add again, more than I deserve. For all these things to be happening, I can't take it for granted, bro. There's fighters that train harder than me, that work harder than me, and everything. But it's all about opportunities, you know. And I always say to people, I thank my parents so much because they brought me to this country, the land of opportunities. Had I been stuck where I was, maybe these opportunities would not have come. So, not a single day goes past where I don't thank God for what's happening. Yeah, training is hard, but I say, God, training is hard today, but help me get through it. But I'm always thankful for everything, even to be sat here to be interviewed by you, bro. And big up to yourself as well. Look where you're at now. Do you know what I mean?
Appreciate it.
So I always take a moment in every single day of my life to thank God for how things are going and the spaces that I've been in, because just the way my life was starting, no one could have predicted or projected any of this happening. So to be here and doing this Ring interview podcast with you, bro, I'm more than I deserve. I want to say again. So I thank God so much.
Brilliant. That's like a perfect way to end. Some really good words. Josh, always great to see you, mate. Even better to be speaking to you on the level I am, as always, mate. Thank you for the words, and pleasure to speak to you, mate. Really appreciate it. Thank you.